think in this world of technological savviness and social media, I think as a content creator or a photographer, you need to be able to get content out there quickly if you're posting to Instagram or any form of social media. Well, for me personally, like I always like editing in Photoshop or Lightroom mainly on my desktop. I'm not a huge fan of editing on my phone, but what I do like about editing on my phone is that there are some phone apps that can give you access to some really powerful tools. So editing from your phone is actually like a really, really good streamlined process because you don't have to worry about putting images onto your computer, editing them and then putting them onto your phone. So it's a good way just to get content out quickly and efficiently. Today, I want to show you my process of editing on my phone and posting to Instagram. If you don't already, please follow my photography Instagram account. It's ByranCito Photo. That's where I post like most of my photography work. And I'm going to show you just the process that I go through from editing in Lightroom to posting straight on my Instagram feed. So I'm going to open Lightroom and I have this picture already in Lightroom. And this is an old picture from like a couple of years ago from my trip to Edinburgh. And I think it's just like a good example of a photo that I may have disregarded initially, because I think as well is you'd be surprised at how much editing can do to improve your photos. You might look at a photo and think, oh, this photo is not good, but you do some slight tweaking, some slight edits to it, and actually it's a really, really good photo. And I want to show you how quick this process is and like how fast I just move through each editing step. I don't spend too long actually editing my photos, especially when it's on my phone. So taking this picture for example, what I see straight from the beginning is that I don't like the framing. I mean, my brother took it, he's not a photographer. But yeah, I don't like the framing of it. And it's a quick tip actually, when you are framing people, where my legs are cut off, that's not really like a good way to frame a photo. If you're gonna take a photo of someone, you either get their full body into like down to their feet, or you cut it from like their waist up, because this angle and this framing kind of seems a bit jarring and a bit awkward. So the first one I'm gonna do is just crop it to something that I like. So you can see I'm kind of bringing it up to that waist level, and then kind of like centering myself as well. So I think I kind of like that. That's a good framing. So as you can see already, like the photo looks way better than where we were at the beginning. You'd be surprised at what a little cropping and a little framing can do. So initially when I look at this photo, I can see that on my face, there's like a lot of shadow and it's a bit dark. I mean, I'm not in black, but so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to go to light and just raise the shadows a bit. As you can see, as I raise the shadow, obviously every shadow on the image is getting raised, but as you can see significantly on my face is getting like a lot brighter. So that's what I'm gonna do to start off with. And I don't wanna do it too much, but I'll stop it about there. And also what I like to do with all my photos is just put like a slight curve in it. So like a slight S curve, just to give it a bit more punch and a bit more contrast. So literally you don't wanna go too crazy with it, because if you go too crazy with it, then you're gonna crunch the blacks and really like blow out your image. So what I do is I go from this line right here where this dot is, and just bring it down just ever so slightly, and then bring this one up ever so slightly. So what that's done is it's kind of brought my blacks down and brought my highlights up, and just kind of added more punch to the image. But also when I look at this image, even though I brought the shadows up, I still think it's a tad too dark on me. So what I'm going to do actually is just raise the overexposure of the image. Not too much, just like a tiny bit, just to bring it up a bit. And there you go. And in terms of like the highlight contrast in here, I'm actually not going to mess with it too much, so I'm just going to leave it where it is. Then I'm going to move to color. And this is where I've been having like a lot of epiphanies lately. And I think for what I like in my photography, I used to like saturating my colors, but now I think I like desaturating them. So what I'm going to do actually is bring down both the vibrance and the saturation of the image. Just kind of like mute those colors a bit. And I think that gives it like a lot more like a classic, like vintagey, like cool kind of feel to it. And it's something that I've been doing like a lot of my images now, and I really just like the look that it gives off. So yeah, and that's all I'm going to do with that. I think that the white balance itself is actually kind of fine, so I'm not going to bother changing the temperature or the tint of it. I think the colors are pretty accurate. One thing I'm going to saturate is the greens, because I really like the green in the background, but I want it to kind of pop out a bit more. So I'm just going to saturate them just a tiny bit, just to make them pop a bit more. And then click done. And then I'm going to go to effects. And the effect I put on most of my photos actually is I like vignettes, especially when you have like a portrait, because it just means that your eye is kind of like being drawn to whatever's in the center of the frame. So if you go up with your vignette, then you're gonna add like a white kind of vignette to it. It's gonna be brighter on the outside. If you go down in the vignette, it's gonna be darker on the outside. And what I like to do is like go down the vignette and make it darker on the outside. But you don't want to do it too much, otherwise you can get like a bit ridiculous. So like that's way too much. So just do it ever so slightly. I think I'm gonna stop it there. And I think already now the photo's like looking a lot better than where we were at the beginning. And again, this is just like a quick edit, so this isn't something. If I also do this on my laptop, I'll probably have like a completely different edit, and I'll probably do some more like micro adjustments. So maybe I'll go like close into my face and kind of like smooth out my skin or something a bit more. Maybe I'll get rid of some distractions, but on my phone, I'm just kind of like changing the color and changing the lighting. And also a lot of my editing on my phone as well is kind of just like sliding tabs and see what happens. Because a lot of the times I'll look at a photo, I'll know some adjustments I want to make, but then the rest of it is kind of just playing around with Lightroom. And I think that's kind of like the fun in photo editing. So sometimes I will like increase the dehaze or decrease it. As you can see, this kind of does a similar thing to like adding contrast. So as you can see, like it's kind of less contrast, kind of getting a bit brighter. And if you go high with the dehaze, then it kind of makes it like a bit more punchy. I'm actually going to leave it where it is. And what I love about Lightroom actually, and one thing I want to make a point of in this video, is that you can have presets and profiles. And for those of you that don't know the difference between presets and profiles, with a profile, the profile changes the look of like the starting image. So once you set the profile, none of your other settings will be changed. Whereas a preset changes all your settings. So how I like to think of it is a profile is changing it from the start and you move forward with that. And then a preset is where you end up with, and then you kind of have to move backwards. So I actually much prefer profiles than presets because I like to have control over my individual settings. So I'm actually gonna go into profiles, and I know a profile that actually I would love to use. And I like to get a lot of like free profiles from Preset Pro. If you don't know what that is, I'm gonna leave a link in the description below. But they have like a lot of good and free profiles for like Lightroom and Photoshop and all that good stuff. So one of the presets I'm going to use, or profile should I say, is, I'll scroll across, the vintage profile. And also the great thing about profiles is that you can increase or decrease like how much of how strong your profile actually is. So if I put it down, then obviously the profile becomes a bit weaker, and then if I put it up, it becomes a bit stronger. So you can kind of like play around with it. I actually want it to be a bit stronger than what it was. And I think kind of the vintage look kind of lends itself well to kind of like the setting that I'm in. So I'm gonna tick that. And actually, I'm actually really happy with this. What I'm gonna do actually, I'm gonna go back to light. I'm actually gonna increase, I know the shadows will probably increase like a lot right now, but I'm gonna actually increase them a bit more. I think that's good. And I'm gonna just go back to the color, because obviously when you add a profile, your colors are going to change, so you may want to add a few more tweaks, which is why some people recommend adding a profile first, but it doesn't make a huge difference. You just want to go back and like change a few things anyway. I'm just going to bring the saturation down even a bit more to about there, and I think I'm quite happy with that. I think taking this picture to where it was at the beginning, considering that I haven't made any kind of micro adjustments, I haven't gone in and like brushed stuff, it's just kind of like a one swipe kind of edit. I think this is a pretty good outcome for how long it's actually taken me. And I think for anyone really that's posting content, I think you should really learn how to use Lightroom or any other kind of like editing software on your phone, because the edits you can do in such a short space of time would really elevate your photography and really elevate your content. So I do recommend doing that. But yeah, this is what I ended up with. And actually, I actually prefer this edit to the edit I did initially for this photo. So what I normally do is I'll export it to my camera roll. And then what I'll do is, if you see my Instagram always have borders, because obviously with Instagram, you're kind of confined to the dimensions of Instagram. So what I like to do is I'll export it and bring it into Polar. And what I do is I go to all tools, and then I add a border to it. And then I put the original aspect to 1:1, so it's a square, and that's what Instagram is. As you can see, it has this white border around it. But then what I do is I set the border width to 5. And the great thing about having borders is that it doesn't mess with your crop that you originally put on the photo. Because if you upload a photo into Instagram, Instagram will normally like crop it to make sure it fits its dimensions. But if you have a border, then it makes sure that all your images are square, but within that square are the original dimensions of your photo. And that's why I like having a border on all my photography, because it means I'm not, compromising my original photos but uploading them to Instagram. Some people aren't a fan of borders, some people don't like borders, some people just like to post to Instagram because they like the way the grid looks. Originally, that's what I did, but then I found a lot of the times that a lot of photos I was taking, they just didn't look good on Instagram. So that's why I stuck to having borders. Then I'll save this as a new photo. And then it's pretty much good to go, and then I can post that straight to Instagram. People like to think, or sometimes I like to think, that edits have to be long and complicated, but honestly, they really, really don't. And there are a few, workarounds and cheats to kind of make sure that your editing is actually like a lot quicker. So as I said, like you can use profiles, you can use presets in Lightroom, and some of the time you don't have to make any further edits yourself. You can set a preset on it, and then it's pretty much good to go. Take a look at some of your favorite photographers. A lot of them sell their own presets, and that's a good way of supporting them. What I love about photography as well, and if you are getting into photography, presets and profiles are good to use, but it's also good to kind of figure out your own kind of style and how you want to edit your photos for yourself. But I hope the video was useful. If you want more photography videos, then don't forget to like the video, subscribe if you want, and then I'll see you in the next one.